All flight controllers, gonna go for landing. Retro. Go. Vital. Go. Guidance. Go. Control. Go. Telcom. Go. GNC. Go. Ecom. Go. Surgeon. Go. Capcom, we're go for landing.
There is nothing wrong with your television. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are now controlling the transmission. We control the horizontal and the vertical. We can deluge you with 1,000 channels or expand one single image to crystal clarity and beyond. We can shape your vision to anything our imagination can conceive. For the next hour, we will control all that you see and hear. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the deepest inner mind to the outer limits.
Peace. This is DDS02D reporting. I hope everybody's having a great Friday. It is Friday night, everyone. I've got a great topic tonight. By the way, I got some great news this week, but the reason why I'm here is because I finally have something really interesting that I think is important to Black men and Black families, Black women, Black children, the community that is. That's worth talking about. What we've noticed recently and what I've noticed, I've been, in the background listening to, content, watching, seeing what's going on here in these spaces. And I've noticed that there's not really a lot of substance there. There's not a lot of substance recently. There's a lot of reviews on reviews. But I got a great topic. I hope everybody will enjoy it tonight. As customary, what I like to do is I like to dig into the data, as I've always done here on my channel. Dig into the data, dig into the stats, dig into the information to make the points that I make. So I want to make this clear is that I wouldn't come to anyone without the proper information before getting on here. So let's get started. So in the Black manosphere, we do acknowledge, I want to make this clear, is that there is a tacit acknowledgement that there are some structural challenges that lay before us as men, right? There are some structural challenges laid before us as men, but what we don't like to get into, and this is what makes us different than a lot of other sectors here on Black YouTube, is that what makes us different is that we don't wallow in it. We don't want to wallow in it and lay the foot of blame on anyone else and we want to focus more on each other. So, oh, hey there, how you doing? Yeah. So, yeah, let me drop the link. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drop this link in here. All right. There's the link for anybody that wants to come up and have a conversation on this. Hey, Miss Femi, it is good to see you. Really, really good to see you. So the topic I have here for tonight is about linkages, about lead poisoning, and about the effects of lead poisoning on Black people, generally speaking. And is it a problem? Is it a problem now? What caused all of this? And what are some remedies? I want to talk about some solutions too. So this might be a little long. You know, I've got quite a bit of information here, but if you look at the screen, you'd see some of the effects, right, of lead poisoning on the human brain. And what you've noticed is that lead poisoning, exposure to lead, right, during childhood years, causes gray matter loss, which is shown here in the dark reddish images there. So there is quite a bit of scientific information on it, but let's go ahead and get into the data. Let's go ahead and get into it. So as with anything, let's start off with saying, what is lead? Let's talk about what it is. So what is lead? Lead is a toxic metal historically added to paint and other products to improve product durability, moisture resistance, and color vibrancy. So if you think about that as like an additive, it's like an additive. And by the way, for anybody that's worried about the sources, there are the sources at the bottom of there's the sources at the bottom right. I have sources right there at the bottom right. But think about lead as like an additive, right? So while widely used in the past, lead paint is now recognized as a neurotoxin that is highly hazardous to health, particularly for children and pregnant women. So this is where this, comes so very important, because as we see at younger ages, right, toxins and poisonous substances have a much greater effect than for adults. So I want to make that clear. So this is very important in regards to children. So that covers what is lead. Now let's keep on going. Now this article was medically reviewed by Alana Biggers, MD, and written by Caitlin Ging on November 10th, 2023. So the title is What to Know About Lead Exposure and Poisoning in Black Communities. Lead poisoning in the United States disproportionately affects Black communities due to historical, institutionalized, and environmental racism. So the key word here is, and I'm circling this because I've got a printout, is disproportionately. So that doesn't just include Black women. It doesn't just include children. It's going to also include boys and men, right? So our group is disproportionately, right, affected by lead poisoning. So this is important to talk about. It's a very important issue in the quote-unquote community, right? So I haven't seen anybody actually tackle this topic. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle this topic and go through the information. It says sources of lead exposure may include contaminated drinking water and soil and old paint dust. Okay, so that's very important to understand, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Throughout history, Black communities have faced undue exposure to lead and other environmental toxins due to institutional U.S. policies. Children are especially vulnerable to lead poisoning, which can permanently affect their development and behavior. Did y'all hear that? Which can permanently affect their development and behavior. So this, according to this article, there is linkage or a link that can be established on behavior and lead poisoning. Lead poisoning in the United States predominantly affects historically marginalized and low wealth populations, especially Black communities. It says this article looks at the history of lead poisoning in Black communities and whether lead poisoning remains a problem. It also reviews which states have the highest incidences, okay, of lead poisoning and the potential complications of lead exposure. That's right, Femi. You've been talking about this for some time. And I decided to take, the topic that you talked about and really dig deeper into it in a very studious manner, showing the sources and making the arguments point by point by point. So we've already established, right, that there is linkage, right, between behavior and lead poisoning, and that it disproportionately affects Black communities. Okay, so those 2 points have already been established. Now, I got a graphic, and this is why this is very important. If you look at the effects of lead on children, and this is by the clevelandohio.gov. Okay, so anybody that wants to disagree, you're more than welcome to come up, just fight the facts, don't fight the person. As far as the body, the effects of lead is that it is causing decreased bone and muscle growth. For the nervous system, it's nervous system damage. For the blood, anemia. And my understanding is that means like issues with the thinness of the blood. Then the kidney damage. And here, the brain, right? Behavior problems, lower IQ, hearing loss, and learning disabilities. So we need to ask ourselves a few questions, right, after we establish the facts, right? So let's ask some questions a little bit later on regarding these learning disabilities, this lower IQ, and these behavior problems in some of our people, right? And is there a linkage between those issues there, and why we see some of the behaviors out in the community and lead poisoning? Okay, so that's a little sneak preview. Let's keep going. U.S. federal policies have historically segregated communities according to race and ethnicity. If we think about redlining, let's think about politically redlining. Let's think about how they redraw, like district redrawing of electoral maps and things of that nature, right? The institutional racism inherent in racial segregation led to negative health outcomes for marginalized groups, especially Black communities. In 1934, following the Great Depression and the resulting housing crisis, the government created the Federal Housing Administration, or FHA. The FHA became the main federal agency for handling mortgage insurance. The organization aimed to free up funds for home loans and reinvigorate the housing market. The FHA also produced a document called the Underwriting Manual, which separated neighborhoods by occupation and income as well as race and ethnicity. Why am I saying this? Because this goes back, that statement goes back to prove what? Right? The federal policies, the inherent institutional racism, right? That they talked about at the top. That justifies that. That proves that, right? It says the manual divided neighborhoods according to a rating system, which predominantly black neighborhoods receiving the lowest rating. Okay, so see, this is proving what we should already know, what we should already know and understand. The FHA institutionalized racist practices, denying mortgages based on race and ethnicity, right? This isolated black communities, denied them financial assistance, and hastened the decline of inner city areas. The racist segregation that government agencies institutionalized also promoted environmental racism. So let's keep going. Let's talk about environmental racism. Predominantly black neighborhoods have historically and consistently had higher exposure to harmful environmental factors overall, such as air pollution and harmful water facilities. Okay, so if you see this, there is the source at the very bottom, a source link at the very bottom. This is not just me saying this. This should be something that we should all know. It says the segregation of black communities allow policymakers and planners to avoid endangering predominantly white neighborhoods while exposing marginalized communities to environmental hazards. So, for an example, the historical exclusion of black communities in North Carolina meant that these communities did not have access to municipal public health services, such as public water services. This led to black communities using private wells contaminated with lead for drinking water, which caused significantly elevated blood lead levels. And we already saw what the effects of lead poisoning is on children, right? Businesses and organizations have also historically used black neighborhoods as locations to dump harmful waste and to build permanent structures with harmful emissions. Okay, in 1959, the Bruco Battery Company dumped 500 used battery casings in a Chicago neighborhood, mostly populated by black families. So look, we acknowledge that there are and have been historical, institutionalized barriers and issues to our progress. We understand that. When the residents living in this low-income neighborhood attempted to use the casings as an alternative fuel source to wood and coal, the burning casings released a toxic cloud of, you guessed it, lead sulfate, poisoning the families. See? Okay, so everybody says it's 2026, right? It's 2026, y'all. All right, so is lead poisoning still a problem? Lead poisoning remains a problem in the United States and is disproportionately and still disproportionately affects black communities. In a 2020 article, researchers report that black children have the highest blood lead levels in the United States compared with other racial groups. That is no accident. That is no accident. If what you're going to say is that that's just a coincidence, then we just don't see things eye to eye. And that's fair. We just don't see things eye to eye, but that is no coincidence. It says the authors state this is largely due to greater exposure to lead through water, air, soil, and industrial emissions in the living environment. Black children are also more likely to live in homes that contain old lead-based paint, which presents a significant risk of lead poisoning. Now, federal, state, and local governments have continued to enact policies that reinforce institutional racism in recent years. An example of this was and is the Flint, Michigan water crisis that was initiated in 2014. The city of Flint, Michigan, everybody should know this. Everybody should know this. Changed its municipal water supply from Lake Huron to the Flint River. The process led to corrosion in the water distribution pipes, causing lead and other contaminants to pollute the drinking water. In 2016, the city reconnected to the original water source, but the Centers for Disease Control, which is one of my favorite government websites, the CDC suggests damage was already done. The damage has been done. And in the predominantly Black community of Flint, many households reported symptoms related to the contamination, including behavioral, mental, and physical health issues. Now, where is lead poisoning the most common? Now, the CDC experts do not consider any blood lead level safe in children. According to the National Institutes of Health, NIH, even children with blood lead levels below 5 micrograms per deciliter may experience potentially serious health effects. The NIH reports that these adverse health events can include behavioral disorders and diminished IQ scores. Circle that one. I circle that one. According to the CDC in 2018, the national average of children in the United States with blood levels higher than 5 that's what is this? 5 micrograms per deciliter was 2.6%. States with the higher percentages than the national average included, and there's a list there, and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are very high there, followed by Vermont, New York, Kansas, Iowa, Ohio, Louisiana, Indiana, Missouri, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. So those are pretty high, pretty high percentages there. Exposure to lead. According to the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, manufacturers use lead in a variety of products such as paint, ceramics, gasoline, y'all, gasoline, and cosmetics until the government began to phase it out from 1973 onward. Researchers estimate that around half of the U.S. population experienced exposure to potentially dangerous levels of lead in their childhood, particularly from the 1950s to the 1980s. Now, if these researchers are estimated that around half of the U.S. population, right, experience exposure, like to danger, like potentially dangerous levels, that would definitely stand to reason that Black Americans, right, from the 1950s to the 1980s were particularly at risk because it was already established earlier that they are disproportionately affected by lead poisoning. So if we look at, a lot of the issues affecting our people as far as intellectual wise and being able to have power of discernment, things of that nature, it can be a challenge. It can be a challenge. Hey there, how you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Oh yeah, you live. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
what do you think so far of? I don't know how long you've been listening, but
I've been listening the whole time. I
yeah,
just didn't want to.
yeah,
I wanted you to get through some of your PowerPoint before I
yeah.
came up.
Okay, yeah.
Because I ain't want to. I ain't want to really interrupt the PowerPoint. But how much more in the PowerPoint?
Oh, well, we could definitely talk about it as we go along. I mean, I'm about halfway through.
So you got some slide? Yeah. I'm gonna keep watching for a little bit.
Oh, okay then. Okay. And it says some people face exposure to lead in their working environment. Occupations that may expose someone to lead include mining, building renovation, construction, ceramics, shooting ranges, and smelting. All right. Let's see. Then it says the NIEHS highlights the sources of lead exposure today. And here are some sources: contaminated drinking water, plumbing or distribution lines that leach lead may cause lead poisoning. And I want to talk about some ways for you to detect it yourself, some resources to go to, and some ideas maybe later on. Then it says old lead paint dust. Although the government banned the use of lead paint, old homes and buildings still contain it. Now, this is important because a lot of us stay in a lot of these inner cities. So a lot of these homes in the inner cities were built decades and decades and decades ago, and more likely to have lead paint, and lead products in the construction work of them, right? So that presents an issue. Then it says paint that chips off and turns to dust may cause lead poisoning. Then it says contaminated soil, old lead paint dust, lead from gasoline, okay, and lead fumes can contaminate soil. So these are some really significant sources of the lead exposure today, and I'm gonna get more into that a little bit later. It says a person may breathe lead in as dust or fumes or consume it in water or food. Young children are at greater risk of lead poisoning as they may put lead contaminated objects in their mouth, right? So when you have children running around the house, small children or infants and things of that nature, crawling around, and they're more likely to put objects in their mouth that could have lead in it. And then it says the potential consequences of lead exposure. Okay, and it says it could have a range of potential effects on children and adults. So the effects of lead on children, okay, it says delays to puberty, behavioral and attention issues, hearing loss, stunted prenatal growth or height, a decrease in cognitive performance, and a decline in IQ and academic achievement. So
remember when Cat Williams said when he said, why do they keep watching people they don't like? And he said, remember, the liar know what lie they told. And this is why these people is so intrigued with us, because they know what they everything on this list, they know what they did to us. I ain't gonna say the young ones or whatever, but these people know what they did to us. So that's why they sit up there and tell us, you low IQ, you low impulse control. Yeah, it's like, it's so funny how all y'all say the same thing. Where y'all get that from? This how this conversation came along, because me and him was talking, and I think I told him about the lead, and I guess you was unaware of this, DDS.
no, I was aware of it, but I don't think that there's been a lot of videos like actually detailing it like the way I wanted to detail it.
Yeah,
But I wanted to have the sources. I wanted to talk about all of the sources of the lead. Like I'm gonna talk about it in the schools and things like of that nature too, and some ways that we can, combat it. Things to identify it. And just some ideas. Because the fact is that I'm about solutions. Too. It's like so I try to, okay, I identify the problem, right? All of the sources, all of the information, all of that, and then, analyze it, talk about it, and then talk about some solutions too, just as an individual person, there's some things you can do to find out, like, okay, does your water have lead in it? Things of that nature. Some great resources to look at, and some links too that would help
okay.
folks too. But yeah, like I agree with you on the fact that, hey, look, this is a problem, and my thing is, I don't get on here just to get on here and talk. I like to get on here with like something to really like talk about. And I think this is important to Black men, to Black women, and to their children, to the nuclear Black family. And that's what I'm all about. Like, that's what I believe in, is the Black nuclear family. So the fact is, for me, I think this is really important and it's worth talking about. And I just hadn't seen nobody really break it down. And maybe that's just because, that's how YouTube is, Femi. You know what I mean? Maybe
Well,
right now,
I don't think a lot of people know about it, because I was just on Taz's panel, and I was telling them this, and I said, because it was some white boy on there, and he was like, oh, Black people's like this. And I said, well, this is why Black people is like this. And somebody on the panel disagreed with me. He was like, no, Black people not violent. No, you have to listen. So we can't disagree with this, right? We can look at our community like I told you how I looked at it. So I lived in a lot of states, and I lived in a lot of major cities, and I could see the violence from here, the violence from here, the violence from here. And I could go to a different country and notice the Black people regular there. They regular in England. They regular in Greenland. You don't hear about all these crimes committed by Black people, or just in that country in general. Well, we have to understand about environmental racism, that the racists don't care if a couple of their people is affected by the environmental racism. They'll just have to take one for the team in order to put on a stage for the world to see. Look at these Black people acting like this. And if you didn't grow up in a neighborhood that was not heavily laced with lead, you will grow up being racist towards your own people. This is the main reason why I started studying the effects of lead on Black people, because I knew a girl from Washington State, Seattle, Washington. That's where she was from. She was from Seattle, Washington. I didn't see Washington on that list that you just showed me, right? I didn't see Washington on there. So she from Washington State, and then she moved to this city, to a different city all the way across the country, and she couldn't she was so scared of Black people. She's like, why is these Black people acting like this? And she had this internalized racism towards Black people. And I have to tell her, well, you didn't know Black people was lead poisoned? And I mean, I'm interested in hearing your solution, because as far as my research, lead poisoning is permanent, and maybe you found something different. That once you get lead poisoning, there's no reversing the damage of it. You are permanently damaged. So when we see these people, and this is another reason too, because Black women, we get talked about how you raise your kids, just like that Asian lady would just talk about how you raise your kids. Just like you see them teen takeovers right now, and people think we not raising our kids right. And then you hear these mothers, or you have friends that are mothers, and you know your friends is doing everything right with the kid. You know your friends is teaching your kids this and teaching them that, and you can't understand why your kid is so rambunctious and wild. And since environmental racism is not talked about, you yourself and the public would just be like, oh, that's how Black people act. So this is something that needs to be put on a bigger platform for us to understand that when that man off that girl on a subway, right before the Charlie Kirk thing happened. It was right before then. It was like 2 days before it happened. And we seen the video. And Nick Fuentes wanted to just tell us that's the nature of our people. Now, if y'all understand what the government did to your people, y'all wouldn't say that all the time. You got to think about, how come it's only, first of all, it's not only Black people. Like I just said, they don't care if some of their people are affected by the lead. They're just not going to choose to highlight cases where they're doing those heinous crimes unless it's on Law and Order to make it entertainment. But they're never going to bring it to the news, that some of the heinous crimes that they do. They just show us and our teens and stuff. And this is it can't be dismissed. And I'm glad that you're showing the research, because when I talk to people about it, I just know what I know. I consumed a whole lot of information. I don't be memorizing dates and sources and stuff like that. And I don't think a person should like dismiss me because I'm not memorizing date. I got a lot of shit to think about. Like, I don't know all the dates and everything that all the white people did to us. But this is a major thing that's in the community, when we're wondering why our kids is always fighting. When you're wondering why, well, Black women don't seem to get along. It ain't that Black women don't get along. When you was already younger, your brain was already damaged. And you don't even know it. You don't even know what was going on with your brain chemically, because they had all these chemicals around you, because they're doing chemical warfare to your community. And now we're growing up. And this is things that really bothered me about the podcast bros and Kevin Samuels, because I would have thought that he was educated enough to know something like this, to know why there's rambunctious people in our community. Matter of fact, the people in Baltimore, when they found out that this government did this to them, they sued and they win money. And to this day, because uh, you might not be able to work if you got lead poisoning, because your temper might be so short. Your temper might be so short that something happened at work and you just snap on somebody. You just, and they fought that. Now there's other cities that this is going on in, and this is new to them. There's not a lot of people that know about this, or they don't understand the effects of it, or they will dismiss it out the window. So now you got to think about the effects of lead combined with the crack epidemic that the CIA put in our community. So on top of lead poisoning, and then you got crack. What do you think is going to happen to our community? So this
Gonna get
discussion is very
destroyed.
necessary.
Yep.
This discussion is very necessary, because you're going to have people that don't care. You're gonna have people that don't care, and they'll say that it's the excuse. It ain't no excuse. If you get lead poisoning in your brain's chemistry is messed up for life, there's nothing you could do about that. And it's really sad because you got single mothers raising kids, and you got men on the internet telling them, oh, you raised your son to be like this, when they ain't raised their son to be like that. And they don't understand that they're in a community that you got lead going through your pipes. Now, there is a per the law, if you live in, if you move into an apartment, I don't know about buying a house, but if you move into an apartment in certain states, you have to tell them that there's lead in the apartment, but they won't tell you. They won't tell you. It'll be in your leasing agreement, and your leasing agreement might be 10 pages long, and you're not reading all that. So now you in this house, they got lead dust all over it. You in this house, they got lead in the pipes, and you taking a bath in it. You're drinking Kool-Aid, you making Kool-Aid with it, and you doing all this, and then your kids grow up to be rambunctious, and you're not understanding why, and they're telling you they got ADHD when they ain't got no ADHD. They got lead poisoning, and they're giving the kids ADHD medication and giving them medicine for something that they know it's not going to work, because that's not what it is. It's not no ADHD. It's your brain chemistry has changed because of the effects of lead. Okay, you go ahead. My bad.
No, that was great. You know what I mean? Like, look, it's definitely an issue. I like how you melded that together with the other big issue, the crack epidemic that was also brought into the community and destroyed a lot of black families. Men that were working steady jobs, and they got on that stuff, and then destroyed the whole family, left the household. You know what I'm saying? Just gone. Because of that stuff. That stuff would do that. Yeah, like I liked how you did that. Yeah.
It's like I when I was saying on my channels, white supremacy is always working against you. It's always. So when somebody is telling somebody something, I might make a video. I tag Taz in this video, and I hope he watch it. But that some things that people don't understand, and it might seem ridiculous. I mean, it shouldn't seem ridiculous to black people, but it might seem ridiculous. Like, you think our government is purposely poisoning us with lead? Yeah, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. With that money, they're about to send $300 billion to Iran. Do I think Iran deserves the money? Yeah, you did all that to them people. You destroyed their country. It told us that they couldn't give us reparations, that they ain't had no money. That ain't the point, though. But with the money that they are giving them for that, they could have replaced every lead pipe in America. Do you know why they're not replacing every lead pipe in America? They're not because we got to think about it. If black people are violent, right? What happens to violent people? Violent people go to jail. What is jail? A legal form of slavery. So you think they're going to fix the lead pipes? If they fix the lead pipes, it's going to be less criminals, because these little kids, they're not sitting around lead and eating lead chips and ingesting lead and taking baths in lead and drinking lead in their Kool-Aid. It's going to be less criminals. Your white American government can't have less criminals, so they're not going to replace the lead pipes in low income neighborhoods. They're not even going to really tell them. It's going to be in the lease, but it's going to be very, very, very small fine print towards the end of the lease, and you're not even going to see it. You're just going to sign your lease because you ready to get in your apartment, and they're not going to tell you. So yeah, this is a lie that they continue to push, that we're just low IQ and we have low impulse control. And I sent this to I ain't gonna lie, I've been dogging this white man out on Instagram, and when I sent him this information, he still denies it. How do I send you articles about the information and you still deny it? But whether they understand or not, we need to understand it for ourselves, because we got Officer Tatum's out there that don't know nothing, that's slow and stupid, that are telling the white community this and this about the black community, but you don't know what they did. You're not paying attention to what they did to us. Us.
Shout out to Miss Pat. Hey, how you doing, sister? How you been? Yeah. yeah. I'm back for now. Yeah, what do we think about the autism? That's look like I've never seen this amount of kids. Now, Femi, look, this reading situation, I don't know what's going on, but it seems like reading is a huge problem, and it seems like there's a lot of like issues going on with boys and autism today. Do you think that there might be some sort of link between that and the lead poisoning? Because it does seem to be like there's a lot of like problems, like intellectual disability problems with the younger generation of our people today. I mean, that might just be me. I mean, I know that there are some great, smart black men, and and young black women out here, but I'm just hearing more and more like, kids having problems with, things that we didn't really have a problem with. Like they don't want to, read. They having problems with sitting down, like still in class and stuff like that. Like I'm not sure what that's all about, but what do you think? Do you think that maybe that the lead poisoning maybe had, caused some of that, or do you think it's a parenting issue? What do you think is going on?
Oh, I'm not going to think mainly anything is a parenting issue. I'm not just because of the knowledge that I know that a lot of these things is not going to be linked to parenting issues. You can have the best parents that you can have, and if you have lead poisoning, now I'm not going to say that there's a link between lead poisoning and autism, but I will go back to environmental racism. Environmental racism. Okay, so now I can't prove this, right? But I got a homeboy. He used to drive the Publix trucks, right? So he used to tell me, the produce that they get for this these Publix out here in the white areas come from this particular area. And he's like, the produce when I go to black areas, he was like, we get it from a different place. And he said that didn't make sense to me, right? So when I think about it, I'm thinking about what is they doing to the food at this place, or what kind of health conditions is at this place that they don't take that food to them over there in that white neighborhood. Now I think that autism has been linked to soy. I think it's been linked to soy, but I think that there's a lot of things going on in our environment and with our food and with our water that are linked to why our kids are acting the way that they're acting, and how we could look at our group of kids and be like, we don't see nobody else doing teen takeovers, or we don't see nobody else having these trouble learning. Now what I would say with the reading, I would just tell you, america America don't want nobody to be smart. It's just not black people. America don't want nobody to be smart. Now, when we watching it on social media, I think it's very ridiculous for black people to walk up to another black person and ask them to read a sentence. And because I'm sure there are people that can read the sentence, they're just pointing out the people that can't. But if they show the same sentences to the white people nowadays, and this is when white people don't know what's going on with them. Nowadays, white people not gonna read them words either. Now, back in the day, right, black people had very high IQs. We was testing off the scoreboard, and it was making the white people mad. So what they did was they changed stuff up. And in their neighborhoods, they put massive vocabulary in their teachings. And in our neighborhoods, they took the vocabulary out. So we didn't learn the same words that they did, right? That was back in the day. Now that now that the elites is, they don't care who they taking money from. You don't you see that these white people, they can't read. I live in Tennessee, and I have ran into white people that don't even know how to do basic math. That they call their kids, they ask their kids, hey, add this up for me. So I can see from the white people that I know, that I've seen, that I interact with, they're not they not smart either. Please don't let these people fool y'all into thinking white people are smart. They are not smart either. So I think this is something that's going on with the government, that they don't want the kids to be educated. You can see in other countries, even though they do have social media, they have limits on their social media. And I think that might be a good thing now that the way that the world's going, they have limits on their social media to what they could put on there and what they're learning. So their brains is always being active with something learning. In the USA, we don't do that. In the USA, even if I just started this YouTube channel, I'm subbed to so many health pages, so many yoga pages, so many soap pages, so many earring pages, so many this and this and that. And the only thing that my feed shows me is racial division. That's the only thing my feed shows me. It doesn't show me anything educational. It doesn't show me anything that I wanted to look at. So when we looking at the dumbing down of people that they can't read, I can't 100% blame that on parenting, because when I was young, we was told to go to school. My parents was at work. They didn't have no time to teach me nothing. And my school taught us everything we needed to know. Nowadays, these teachers got cell phones. The teachers be on their cell phones all day. They be on their phone talking in the hall. The teachers want to be as cool as the kids. And America is not putting an emphasis on education. Thus, they want to stop the B-15 visas or whatever. But now they like, oh no, we need to get these Indian people in here to help run these companies. And when Laura Ingress say, we got smart people in America, and when Trump said, no, we don't, it's because the liar knows what he did to you. He said, no, we don't, because Trump understands what they're doing to white people in America. They don't want to pay them white people that money. So they're not going to educate them like that. But they will pay 6,000 Chinese people for them to get educated, or Indian people, because they can do the work when they're going to get paid low. So I'm not going to blame the state of the education system on a parent solely. Rent costs so much. I don't know even how people have time to help kids with homework when you got to keep working constantly just to pay your rent or your mortgage. You get what I'm saying? So I think a
Yeah,
lot of it is
yeah,
chemical
yeah.
warfare. A lot of it is chemical warfare that we don't necessarily understand, or like I said, it's out of our mind. White supremacy is always working against you. It's not out of my mind. I'm very aware of chemical warfare. But on an everyday basis, Black people's not thinking about, we just see like, Dad, why all these niggas keep robbing and shooting in this particular neighborhood? Well, did you check the lead? Did you check the lead level in the neighborhood? Nobody's going to think about that. Or you're going to have people that don't care, because we already had this in our, we're already stereotyped as violent. But the liar knows what lie it told. They stereotyped us as violent, knowing what they did. They knew they were going to make us violent because of this chemical. They even done tests where in the ethanol, in the gas, there's lead in gas, and when they decrease the level of lead in the gas, I mean, this is a study, the crime in that area went down 20%. So listen, there's people
I
making.
saw that. I actually saw that. I didn't put that in here, but I did. That is actually true. Like I saw that study, and they were talking about that. Is that once they did the unleaded gasoline, like they noticed that that the crime level had went down. Yeah, good point right there. So I
so
know
so
I know you on your game. I see you on your game. Yeah.
so if that's another reason, your government knows if we decrease the level of lead in the gas, that the neighborhoods would be, I mean, there would be less crime, it'll be more safe. Do you think there are people out here making cars that want to run off water? They're making cars that run off plastic. They're making cars that run off candy. They making cars that run off everything. Your government knows this. Your government could completely stop the use of gas, and it would greatly decrease crime. Not in just, I mean, and we got to stop saying white people are the most criminals in the United States. If they did this would even decrease some of their criminality, but they won't do it because they don't care if their people get hurt, as long as they can make us look bad. They won't decrease the amount of lead. They won't. And we were supposed to have all electric cars. That wasn't because of the lead. They wanted it because it was going to make Elon look good. But if we did go to all electric cars, y'all will see a decrease in violence, because that chemical that's in that gas tank ain't going all around America. You're not
That's
going to
right.
feel it.
That's right. That's right. Like it. I mean, I think there's a lot of data, a lot of information. You know what, Infemi, that's kind of like where I'm coming at it from is more of an analytical point. Now, guess what? Now, let's talk about the lead in schools and older homes. Now, it says lead is a common hazardous contaminant found in the plumbing systems of older homes, businesses, and schools. Although rarely found in source water, lead can enter tap water through the corrosion, right, of aging plumbing materials. And it says the three primary sources of lead. Now, this is a different source down here. This is the nsf.org/consumer-resources site. It says the three primary sources of lead containing service lines connected to public water systems, most often in schools built prior to 1950. Now, there are a lot of schools that were built prior to 1950. And then it says lead solder used in copper piping systems prior to 1986. Now, look, a lot of these homes were built well before 1986. So, a lot of that copper piping, was put together with lead solder. And then it said lead containing brass or galvanized pipe and fittings that are not certified to NSF, ANSI, or CAN 61 standard. Includes many products manufactured prior to the mid-1990s. So the fact is, Femi, like a lot of these schools and a lot of these homes, that are dated homes, where the plumbing systems are older and were put together with lead solder. A lot of the fittings, were lead containing brass or galvanized pipe fittings, and a lot of the schools that were built prior to 1950 also had a lot of lead containing service lines. So this is something very important to know. I'd suggest for anybody that's got a child going to a school, that was built before 1950, tell them not to drink the water there.
Right.
Just to be on the safe side, do not let your children drink that water from the school. Because why? We're going to get into it. Check this out. How is water in schools tested for lead? EPA has established the 3 T's: training, testing, and take action approach for reducing lead in schools and child care facilities. But guess what you're going to find out about the 3 T's? It is not mandatory. It's just a recommendation. And I'll show that on the next slide, right? So it says, however, each state decides on the implementation and enforcement of the testing portion. So the states don't even have to enforce it if they don't want to. That's why I was saying earlier, don't have your children drinking from them school water fountains, if this an old school like that, built before 1950s. And there's a lot of schools that were built before 1950. So now this slide is going to tell you exactly what I'm saying. And it's from the EPA. The link at the bottom is from the EPA. It says EPA's 3 T's. Right here, you will find information and recommendations, right, to prepare schools, child care facilities, and states to build a voluntary implementation program to reduce lead levels in drinking water. This is not something that is mandatory. This is a voluntary program, like it's a recommendation, right? So that's why I was saying that that one big, recommendation is not to let your children drink from the school, drinking water. Then it says, and this is from the EPA, and this is the last slide. It says, protect your tap, a quick check for lead. It says, and this is from the EPA, lead is very dangerous to human health. For children, lead exposure can cause irreversible, just like you said, Femi, it is irreversible. It's permanent. You can't go back. It says it can cause irreversible and lifelong health effects, including affecting IQ, focus, and academic achievement. Drinking water is a potential source of lead in homes. So now, this guide will help you determine if you have a lead service line bringing water into your home. Now, it uses pictures, step-by-step directions to identify lead service lines, provides tips to reduce lead exposure, information on testing your water, and resources to learn more. So it says, have your water tested to find out for certain if you have lead in your drinking water. Some states or utilities offer programs to pay for water testing and or lead service line replacement for residents. And it says you could contact your state or local water company for more information. Now, at the link at the bottom, the EPA has a link, right? It's epa.gov slash groundwater and drinking water, right? At the EPA, they have tips, just like it explained there on the next page of that website. They have tips, and tests that you can do yourself. Actually, a lot of these home kits, can be, bought off, a lot of, online sites, and you could test your water, to find out whether or not there's lead in the water for sure, So that is something that, I think is worth taking the time before you buy a house to, look through the paperwork. Does it have lead? When was it built? Things of that nature. All of that is buried deep down in there somewhere, but you need to take the time to look for it. Take the time to look for it. And if not, okay, then there are kits that you can buy, okay, that will, help you test for lead in the water. Because look, you have children, and then later down the line, you find out the children are having behavioral problems. They can't focus in school. Like they're having intellectual problems, and you can't find out why. You done hired a tutor, did all of this, did all of that. It only improved a little bit, but no, they're still behind. Well, now you know why. What this could be a potential reason as to why. Because you may be living in a home, or he may be going to a school where he's drinking, water, or she's drinking water from, lead fittings or lead solder, joints that were put together, things of that nature. So it's very important to always take that into consideration when you're trying to buy a home and, raise a family and things of that nature, But so, yeah, Femi. So what do you think about all of that?
I think it's very unfortunate, and it makes me very angry because, like even if they not drinking the water at the school, what they making the food with, what they preparing the mashed potatoes with, or whatever, instant mashed potatoes. They just want to go get the water out the spigot and make the instant mashed potatoes. To thicken their gravy, they just want to get some water out the spigot to thicken the gravy because it's instant. So it to me is very messed up. And just to go back on a Puritan thing, when you say, can we blame the parents? It's like no, because it's like you can sit there with your kids, especially if you don't know nothing about this. Like you said, you can get a tutor, you can pay for this and you can pay for that, and it's just not clicking. And then when you take your kid to the doctor, they just gonna tell you they got ADHD, which is a misdiagnosis, and they're not telling these people go, or people not even thinking to check the lead. But that's what I was telling you in Baltimore. They discovered that their government was poisoning them with lead, and they sued the city and they won. So, but a lot of people aren't hip to this. A lot of people, and like I know some personally, that get the money for the check. So unless I would have met that person, or I know a lot of people from Baltimore now. So I know a lot of people from Baltimore. They get a lead check. They don't got to go to work. Their lead check covers their rent. Their lead check covers their groceries. It covers their expenses. So now you got grown black men that's not out here working, right? And sometimes when somebody's not working, even though you get that money, you might still get yourself in trouble because you're not working, because you can't concentrate at work. This is something that was done to our community, and I be tired of hearing white people shit about what they got to say about us, because a lot of what got to be said about us could be linked to this lead poisoning. A lot of it, a lot of it. Your son's just growing up violent and you not understanding, or we're watching, Cynthia G used to do the reports on the men that was taking out their moms, and she would tell you that it's dangerous. But I don't know if she even understood the effects of lead. She might not even understand. Well, the men is doing this because they got lead poisoning. Like 9 times out of 10, if you go check the levels, if you read it, because you'll have people, everybody ain't got lead poisoning. Well, it depends on what neighborhood you grew up in. It greatly depends. If you were in a house that had lead during your adolescent years, most likely your body was affected by it. Like I said, after your brain is developed, lead don't affect your brain no more. After you're developed, but that don't mean that we don't have other environmental things coming at us, like the food, like the vaccines. We don't know what they giving us when they giving us vaccines. We don't know if the motherfuckers back there got the vaccines for the white and the vaccines for the black. The vaccine clear when they bring it to you. There's no way for you to test the vaccine. So even though I don't have no proof, I certainly believe that's a part of environmental racism, what they put in the vaccines. I don't have no proof. I'm not no scientist working in the lab and a doctor, but I can look at our community, and like I said, when you look at black communities in different parts of the world, Australia, uh, 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 England, what was it? We had the people from Greenland or Russia, the black people in Russia. They not acting like that. They not acting like that. I don't know if they had the lead there or if they changed it, but we know in the United States they refuse to get rid of these pipes because it's leaking this poison into it, and they don't care if they poison you. You being poisoned 100% makes profit for them. They can exploit you on television as you being violent, and when you go to jail, they're gonna get you to be making Louis Vuitton purses for 2 cents a day. They're not going to change it, and this is why I say I be so bad at the black community. Like I was listening to O'Shea said MTR is one of the YouTubers in the top 1%. Nigga, what have you done for the community? You one of the top YouTubers. Now, don't get me wrong. I know O'Shea Jackson have done things for black people. I don't know what MTR has done, or I don't know how there's information out here like this, and there hasn't been a gang of black people, celebrities, basketball players, anybody that's trying to do better for us. Right now, they're building a Jewish community, I think, in Houston, and you got black people mad that the Jewish people is building a Jewish community. Why are you mad at them? We could put our resources and build us a community, but y'all don't want to. Y'all want to go to Thailand. Y'all want to spend y'all money on white bitches. Y'all want to do this. Y'all want to do that. Instead of focusing on doing something better for the community so we could start birthing kids in a better environment. If we don't start birthing kids in a better, what's the point of us kids? Y'all be talking about abortions. What do it matter? 9 times out of 10, these people that are getting abortions are living in neighborhoods that are full of lead. What does it matter? Their life is going to be messed up anyway. They're going to grow up violent. They're going to grow up with learning disabilities. So what is the point? What is y'all even talking about that for? It don't make no sense to me.
Yeah. Like I totally understand. It makes a lot. I see where you're coming from. I get it. I just Miss Pat, Miss Animal. If you want to come up, you're more than likely. Feel me? This one of my day ones right here.
Okay, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, she definitely. Like it's been a while since I've been like on here like this, so. I'm really glad to see her come up. So
Yeah, that's nice.
if she want to come up, she definitely welcome to come up. We could kind of chop it up to talk about what's going on these YouTube streets. But Femi, I think this was an outstanding look. I think this was I think it was a very outstanding stream. I like to come at things like generally, kind of like I did tonight, right? I come up, I got the information, stuff like that. Folks can, definitely are welcome to come up and give their insights, and things like that. I mean that's all it is. It's just a platform for people to talk and have a conversation, things like that. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. Hey, look, I saw what you got going on. You got a lot of stuff going on there at the what I'm saying, with the chicks and stuff like that, like the animals and things. Like I found that to be really interesting. Like I like watching it and like watching what you got, you know what I mean? And seeing, I saw the newest edition, I remember that video, the newest edition, you know what I mean? It seems very, seems very, like a very great addition there, like a protector, like you're gonna protect. But yeah, she said shout out to you too.
Shout out to you.
She said, shout out.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoying the conversation. I think it's something that we have to make each other more aware of. Yesterday, I went to a meeting in Memphis. I went to the meeting about the data centers and about them trying to fight Elon Musk about the data centers, because this is another form of environmental racism. And like how the guy talked about it last night, he was like, both of his grandparents died at 60 years old, and he was like, that's a lynching. He was like, they've knocked years off of my grandparents' life because of the poison they put. It was, I think it's called Boxtown. They had already had issues with them doing stuff to their water there, and they fought so long. And then after they fight, Elon Musk come, and now it's the same thing. And I'm just gonna tell you, I went to the meeting last night, and I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to be discouraged. They want me to keep coming to the meetings, but I don't think nothing's gonna change. They talking about fighting a trillionaire now in a little black community. I can't say what I think needs to be done on the internet, but I'll just tell you that person that did that to that Scott tissue plant, he had the right idea, because nothing's going to change. They in the meeting, they telling us that they talking to XAI's lawyers, and they're telling XAI lawyers this. Look, what I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna just tell you here my thoughts on everything. All this shit is fake. The legal system is fake. I'm gonna get a little bit off topic, but the guy Luigi that took that CEO out, he might walk. And you know why he might walk? Because his defense created a syndrome for him, talking about, I don't know what the word is because they just made it up, and saying that, oh well, it was a crime of passion because of this and this and that. And some people was like, we never heard of this, but the lawyers want to use it. All this stuff is made up. So as hard as they think that they're going to go fight in court, I don't think nothing's going to happen. I think XAI is going to be there. And this is not just going on in black neighborhoods. There are white neighborhoods in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi that have data centers in it. And these are very poor, white, redneck neighborhoods. And they can't do nothing about it either. And sometimes with white people, they dismiss that the same thing that's going on with us is going on with you. It's just not as televised. If you're not doing your research, you don't understand. So I don't know what's going to happen to these black people down here, because the white people in Mississippi can't even get the data center out they neighborhood. They said that, I don't know, it's some type of sound that the data center make, or some type of chemical. Ever since the data center got put up, they have had an increase in car crashes in this white little town down in Mississippi. So we understand how these things might be invisible, but they are affecting us. And They tried to sue them, and guess what happened? No, they can't. We there's no link between the XAI data center and the car crashes. This is why everything is fake, because people are always just going to lie. So there's not no link. So once he got in here, all of a sudden there's all these car crashes now, and you're going to try to tell me there's no chemicals leaking into these people's brain that might be making them dizzy when they drive, or they might lose their vision somehow. This is in a white town. They don't care about them. They not going to care about these people in Boxtown, Memphis. And it's unfortunate, because these people are going to be subject to this environmental racism, and it does knock years off their life. But that's what when Black women be talking about. Black men hold an immense amount of wealth in America, to where we should be combating these things for ourselves and not depending on the government to do anything. We need to be creating a land for ourselves. We need to be making plans for ourselves. If every Black person in America, from Oregon to Washington, D.C., from California, and we all just gather in Florida, Georgia, wherever, they say it's only 13% of us, we could just stay in the South and push them people out. Push them like how they come and push us out of neighborhoods. Everybody should have a mindset to where we're going to go to these couple of states, and we're going to push them out of these states. And once we push them out of them states, because we're all living here and they don't want to be with us in Black fatigue, that's when we take our money and we make our environment better. Or we take that land and we say, no, this is our land. But Black people are not thinking on that level. They're not thinking on it.
Yeah, they're not. And see, my thing is that it takes a collective thought. Like, Dr. Claude Anderson talked about empowernomics. Like, you have to collectivize, like, you have to get enough people together, right? That's on the same page, and doing the same things, really, to make any type of change, right? So like that's what that kind of looks like. You know what I mean? Like, either economically, as far as investing, things of that nature, or like what you're talking about, but people, for some reason, they're not not cohesive.
It ain't it's not some reason. It's because of white people. It's not for some reason. It ain't for some reason. They know exactly. So I'm talking to this white man, right? And I ain't gonna lie, I be cussing his ass out. And he let me. He racist though. Like,
you say he let you.
This how I met him, right? He was on the inbox. I mean, he was on a post on Instagram saying we chimp out. And then you know how I am. I'll go right to the inbox. I'll go right to the inbox. And I started showing him all this stuff that white people did. And he asked me after I showed him this, he asked me to send him a picture of me in my underwear. And that's why I was like, yeah, these motherfuckers wild, yo. You was just calling Black people chimps, and I'm sending you all this racist shit, and you asking for this. But I've been talking to him for weeks now. And I'm going to tell you, every time I approach him with a question about why white people doing this, all he do is send me a video of a Black lady. I think she killed her kids in the supermarket. And then I told him about the lead. I was like, yeah, she probably got lead. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to deny that happened. I know what's going on. She probably got lead and don't even know what's going on in her own brain. And then besides this, we're in a community that has been taught to ostracize psychological help. If we go get psychological help, that means we crazy. No, when you see your kids acting a certain way, I don't know the effects of that with therapy. I didn't look that up. I don't even know if it's been studied. But I feel like if you see your kids acting a certain type of way, you might need to send them to therapy. But I have heard Black men saying therapy don't work. And I often wonder, is it not working because you got a blockage in your brain because of the lead? It's not a lot of stuff that we could blame on ourselves as people. People want to say Black people. Huh?
Yeah. I'll say this, like, I think that, for a lot of what we hear online, and you know what, and this is where I would kind of diverge from a lot of folks, right? Is that I do believe, right? And I've done content like this before. Like, I don't think that, like, it's just a coincidence, right? That Black people are like the highest, like, at this, proportionately affected by lead poisoning. Like, I just don't think that, like that, like they try to say, like, if you can recall, like they made this argument one time, oh, Black people are just so violent. Look at the stats. Well, if you dig down into the stats, you find out that black people are more likely to get pulled over. They're racially profiled, so that's why the numbers are a little higher. And then they tend to get more time for the same crime. So that's been proven by the Bureau of Justice. Like all of that's been proven. And see, that's where I think we're a lot like where I diverge from a lot of people, because I looked at the data and I thought about it for myself, right? And I say, wait a minute. No, this ain't like there has to be a reason why this number, why there's so much of a difference. And then when you dig into it, you find out why. Or you find out why it's because, you know, the laws are applied differently. Like, you know, they will enforce it on us, but then not enforce it on other groups, right? So like we've seen this. And you know, but my thing is where I jump off the boat with on other folks, on another set of folks in these spaces, is that I don't like, for me, I say, look, you know, there's a way to say, okay, look, I'm gonna live the right way. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna do the best that I can, right? To try to be in the best areas, you know, areas where, you know, things are less likely to happen. Now that doesn't mean that they won't, but I'm gonna, you know, take action so that, you know, maybe these things that affect, a large part of us, you know, doesn't really, you know, have that much of an issue on me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stay away from like those bad influences, you know, the selling and the, you know, the trapping and all that. Like I'm gonna try to not go in that, like be around folks that's doing that. Now I ain't saying, you know, that they're evil people. I ain't saying that. I mean, people got to do what they got to do. But for me, I've seen where that road leads. Like that road has led to incarceration, things of that nature, struggles, and you know, money problems, and you know, all types of issues. So that's where I jump off the boat on that end. So that's why, Femi, for me, that's why I've said that I'm just a different type of pro-black. I'm a different type of pro-black because I don't co-sign, okay, you know, all of that particular thing that we call culture, like that. Okay, you know, women supposed to be, you know, vixens, and the men supposed to be thugs and all that. No, no, I don't believe that. I believe that, you know, you can still be black and be smart at the same time. Like I believe that you could be black and be accomplished and go to, you know, and even outsmart some of them. You know, like I do believe that, you know, but in order to have the best chances, you have to make certain moves in life. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be around, you have to get away from negative influences, things that would, you know, like bring you down, things like that. So you got to be able to do that. So that's where I'm at, you know, like I'm just that kind of person. And that's not really, I found out that that's not really all that common, you know, like it, you know, it's really not that of a common occurrence. And when people see that, like they see it as being odd, right? You know, they see it as being odd. That's really unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. But yeah, well, I would jump off the boat with, you know, a lot of the brothers, you know, in the space, right? And you know what I mean by the space. That, hey, look, man, like, you know, I recognize that there are challenges, like there are issues, like things do happen because you're a black person. Like I'm not like this person that thinks that, oh, look, everything is neutral, like, you know, nobody see no color. No, I'm not that naive. I've been here long enough to know the truth, right? So that's where I diverge from a lot of the guys on. But you know, just to kind of let you know on that point. That's why I was saying earlier, I don't wallow in it though. Like I don't wallow and say, oh, you know, I can't get ahead because the white man got his foot on my neck. You know, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, you know, woe is me. See, that's where I jump off the boat on the pro-black side, because I'm like, hey, look, now look. You can get out here and get yourself any type of, you know what I'm saying, you know, get you a job at the bottom. I don't care where it's at, but get you a job, man. You know what I mean? Be productive. do
No,
something, man.
I can't agree with you.
I know, man. I see that. See, that's the thing. But
So
I'm
people
just
be
telling you.
telling
I'm
me,
just telling
they be like,
Go ahead.
you don't want black people to be blamed for nothing. And I be like, because black people, okay. So I think all black people are smart. I don't care if they got laid or not. I didn't watch black men that was homeless like make a bike out of cans. Like black people have abilities that other people don't have. We're very, very intelligent. So if you get you get you so if you have lead poisoning, right? So let's say lead poisoning on top of you might be a child of a parent that came from the crack epidemic. Okay. You already got those two things coupled together. And then on top of that, you got media beating you down. Now, I've said this a lot of times. I didn't grow up watching Boys in the Hood and stuff like that. But I have to understand other black people in my age group did. So now you got that beating you down. So on top of all three of them things, while you're going out to go look for a job, don't nobody hire you. And I had to start to understand black men at a certain level when, like I told you, what happened to me. So besides that just happening, you got all these other factors. And you might think, man, if I did this, this person could do it. This person could do it. But some people mentally in their brain, we have been in chains so long. We have to understand there are some people that they can't mentally get out those shackles. And that is the worst trick that the oppressor played on us. Because just like the lead, we don't see the lead. We're not gonna see the environment. I mean, we're not gonna see the psychological chains that's held on a black person all the time. We could see it in the coon, like we could see it in Brandon Tatum. We could see it in some of these black girl Republicans. You could see it in them. But there are some people that so much stuff happened to them in life, they cannot pick themselves up. And it very much angers me. It very much angers me because if there's a person like my father sat up there and told me one day, I invented this and I invented that and I invented that, but I never had no money to do it. And he was like, when I did have the money, I had to pay for this and I had to pay for that and I had to pay for that. My dad told me about a whole bunch of stuff that he invented, and then 10 years later, he said he seen somebody else come out with it. And that shit made me hurt for my dad. Like, damn, these people set us back. What could my dad have been if we would have had generational wealth? So then I got to think of a person that don't have that type of mindset, that got lead poisoning, that's affected by the crack epidemic. They got music telling him he ain't shit. They got movies telling you that you ain't, that we always put the white man at the top. Hey, yo, they mentally beat black men down. So I can't be mad at a black man that can't do it because I don't know what's inside his soul. I don't know how broken his soul is. I don't know. I
But
can
you know what though?
imagine.
This is the thing. Now, Femi, now we gotta okay. So I agree with you on that point, but there's a caveat, right? This is the caveat. You know that there are some dudes out here, right, that really they use that as an excuse. They say, hey, look, I really don't want to go to work, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna say, hey, look, man, like I really can't, like I ain't nothing out here, like I can't, like I'm just don't want to do it. And they use it as a crux, like an excuse as to not go out there and do something. They able-bodied, they got some sense on them, but they don't want to work. Like, bro, they're just lazy, man.
So how they paying their rent?
Well, what we find out is that a lot of them is into that other type of lifestyle, like that's able to get them to, like they selling, doing whatever, or maybe they staying with a woman. You know what I mean? Like they staying with a woman, they got a woman taking care of them. You know what I mean? A lot of these dudes is like that. Like, you know. But
Yeah,
my
I know a
thing
lot
is,
of dudes do have women take
yeah,
care of
man.
them.
That's
I
what I
know.
said. I know. Look,
I know
I
about
know.
that.
I
I
know,
know
man.
less of the men that's selling this stuff, but I know there is a lot of men that got. I
Yeah,
know a lot of men that got women taking care of them.
yeah, man. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so we got that, all of that going, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's why for me, I don't like to get real deep in it, because it's like there's a point where it's like, okay, now I don't want to be making excuses for any and everybody, but I do acknowledge that there are challenges, barriers that have been put there. Like, I'm not gonna like not acknowledge that, and act like, oh, it just don't exist. Like, I'm not naive like that. But I'll say this much is that we gotta figure out something where we be like, okay, now you you don't got, like, you just trying to use this as an excuse not to work, not to try to do better, not to try to, go to school, not to try to, go out there, get your license or whatever. You just do not want to, actually do anything. So there's something.
Why wouldn't somebody want to do something? I ain't gonna lie, I'm going through this situation right now with somebody that I know it's like they losing everything right now, and I can't understand why he ain't doing nothing about it, but I do know he got laid.
Yeah, look, my whole life I've seen guys do that. That's why I'm bringing it up, because my, like, I've seen these dudes do this. I mean, like, they got a slick mouthpiece, they got a girl taking care of them. You know what I mean? But they ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like, they really ain't doing nothing, and really ain't trying to do nothing, and saying, "Oh man, I can't. I got a record, so I can't. I can't do this." But they not even trying to, like, even try. Like, they just
You
sitting
can't say
there.
that.
Yeah, they just sitting
Let me tell
there.
you. I told you what happened to me, right? And let me tell you something. I had a hard time finding a job. And I'm very intelligent. I graduated at the top of my class. You know what I'm saying? And when that happened to me, I had to think, and I ain't gonna lie, it was a point I got so depressed. I was just like, I guess I'm just not gonna do nothing for the rest of my life. Because I had so much time invested in that nursing school. And when that happened to me, it was just like very, very, very devastating. It was very devastating. But let me tell you how. I'm gonna just tell you how I got out of it. And I don't know if I didn't do this thing, but I got out of it. So when I moved to Atlanta, right, I was still trying to get a job because I felt like, well, if I go to Atlanta, that shit not gonna follow me. And it did. And the only thing that saved me was a black man. He told me, you need to start your own business. And I said, how am I gonna start a business? I ain't got no money. Here's who said you needed money to start a business. So I'm like, what you mean? He tell me, you go get you some food stamps, you go work at a little restaurant, you get you some plates and some forks and some this and this that, and you do this and you get your food stamps and you start selling you some plates. Let me tell you, I can't even remember what this black man looked like. But that one black man changed my fucking life by telling me that. Now, I never did no stuff with no food, but I did start my own business with like $50. And I turned it into $100,000. But I have to
Yeah,
understand everybody don't have a mindset like that. Or people
yeah,
might not have people encouraging them like that. And when I
yeah.
used to tell black men that, that been in jail or something, I would tell them, won't you start cutting here? And I'm just gonna tell you the reactions I got from telling the man to go cut here was wow. Like they got angered at me because I'm telling them, you need to try to have your own business because it's not gonna happen. But I'm just gonna tell you, if I never moved to Atlanta, I couldn't tell you where I would be because I couldn't get a job at a restaurant. I couldn't get a job as a security guard. I couldn't get back into the hospital. That's the reason I moved because I couldn't get a job. Now everybody don't have the same I mean, we all didn't live the same life, so we don't know if moving is going to help us in or out that situation. But when I find people in that situation, I tell everybody, move to Atlanta, it'll change your life. I tell everybody that, oh, you can't get a job, come to Atlanta, sell lighters, you won't make it. You come to Atlanta and sell pictures, you won't make it. You come here and sell keychains, you won't make it. So I think some of those times where men get like that, I feel like, especially with America now, there ain't no YMCA. When I was a kid, I went to the YMCA. When I was a kid, we had I mean, it was just the neighborhood that I was in. Like some people think I was from a certain neighborhood when I wasn't. The neighborhoods that I lived in, like they had people come to the community and talk to us about college, talk to us about dressing right, talk to us about proper speech. Everybody didn't have that. So it do make me sad, like when you say some of these things, like this man might just not be trying. But I mean, I've been black my whole life, so I can understand somebody just their mental state being mush.
Yeah,
I ain't
being
gonna
like
lie,
that.
during the pandemic, that ain't had nothing to do with racism. But during the pandemic, my brain was mush. I didn't want to do nothing with my life. I said, life might as well be over. This is the end. I was fucked up during the pandemic. I was like, I'm gonna die.
Hey, for a lot of people, it felt like the end of the world. Hey, look, y'all remember like during COVID, it felt like the way they was acting, it felt like this was gonna be forever, man. Like the way they were putting it out there was like you gonna have to always wear that mask. Like nothing was gonna ever be the same. But now here
Right,
he is. But now here we is at Harlem. Ain't nobody wearing no mask. Everything like okay, it's still businesses open now. You know, everybody's
right.
starting to get back.
So
Like, look, man.
my mind right now, and I'm trying to get my mind back on track. I'm trying to because my mind right now with the stuff that's going on with the economy, my whole brain is like, how am I make money if ain't nobody got gas? How am I make some money? How am I do this if there ain't no gas? Because I don't know if you know, the gas is supposed to run out this month. Now they predicted this months ago. So this is why Trump is trying to do the deal with Iran. And this is another thing. When white people be saying we the most violent, and I'm like, what is you worried about two kids fighting at McDonald's for? When we got these white people that's stopping up the whole world and that these prices is raising. So now, if there's not no deal made for these Iran people to start doing the oil, they're going to have to start rationing out gas. Now they're already doing this in other countries in Asia. They've already told people, well, y'all only got to come to work 2 days a week because there ain't no gas. I don't know what that got to do with their rent. I don't know if they landlords doing something, but that's about to be the case in America. If
Yeah, that hey, look, that part right there, that you just mentioned, I don't got no comment to that. I don't got no damn
Yeah, but it's making
comment.
my brain
I
go
don't
like,
got
dang,
no
what should I do
comment,
with my
bro.
business? My
Like,
brain is like getting depressed, so I can see how somebody, and I'm trying to get myself out of it. The best way to get my mind out of it is just not to watch the news. And I used to didn't watch TV at all, but I'm older now and I'm addicted to the news. And I'm like, then when I go on Instagram and I see my homegirl with her salon, I be like, okay, she still got her salon. I'm letting this news or what I see on TV or YouTube aggravate me. But I do think it's a very real thing. I don't want to, because I was supposed to do some things this summer. And then I'm like, I don't want to go out of town. And then gas is $12 a gallon in July. But that's paralyzing me. I can see how I could paralyze somebody else. So I can see how there will be certain men that mentally might be paralyzed about something. Because I was mentally paralyzed like a week ago. When I'm telling you, I spent the whole week not doing nothing, creating nothing. I ain't make no videos. I ain't make no jewelry. I ain't make no soap. I ain't make nothing because my mind was gone. It was right after the Carmelo Anthony verdict. My mind was gone. And I was very depressed to where I couldn't do nothing, but I just got back to it. So I think sometimes when you meet people like that, I know I might make a lot of excuses for black people, but I think I think a lot of shit that happened to us that should be excused. That's just
right,
me.
right. Like I agree with you. That part that you mentioned about why are they worried about two people fighting at McDonald's while they over there doing all that violence? That's what
Right.
I meant by I ain't got no damn comment, bro. Like that's a bomb drop. Now my thing is, all right, what I'm thinking about as like a small caveat to that. Like if you think about America, now Femi, I know we didn't got way off topic, but I'll say this. When you think about America, it's a violent place, bro. Like America is built on violence and
Hmm.
aggression. Like if you think about how we separated, well, how they separated from England, right? They were mad about the taxes, right? So they started this whole war, right? The Revolutionary War,
Yeah.
right? Because they were mad about taxes on tea and stuff like that, like and things like that. So there was a lot of violence, man. You know what I mean? So you, you're dealing with a violent culture, like like a violent people, but they try to act so docile, like, and try to act as though, oh, we're the docile ones, but y'all, black folks, y'all are so violent. Why y'all so violent? But actually, the whole like everybody, like it all stemmed out of violence. Like if you came over here, stole the land from the Indians, all of that, took the land over by force, then fought the people that you were leaving from. All of that is violence. Like it's all in violence, and it's all in like, and they try to dress it up and to say, oh, it's about independence. It's about, we were trying to fight for our rights and fight for freedom. Well, you can like make that argument like that, but I can see it the other way and say it's really just being violent. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's just being
right.
violent. Yeah, you're right. It's just
Yeah,
being violent.
it's all just being violent and just like against against authority. So now they want to say we all against authority. No, y'all the ones that's against the damn authority.
Right.
Yeah, y'all need to bow down to the British Queen.
Right. Exactly.
You know what? I'm trying to keep it PG the best that I can here.
I
It's
know. I
YouTube.
try
So
to.
YouTube funny. YouTube real funny, right? But yeah, man. But man, y'all, hey, look, it was good being back here for a minute. I only come here if there's something worth talking about. And when we had this conversation about you brought up the lead, I said, look, I can dig and find some data on this, right? So if it's something I can find some stuff on, I'll present it and put it up. That's worth me doing, man. But a lot of this stuff these folks doing on YouTube now, all of this review of a review of a video. Hey, look, man, like y'all not creative enough to make y'all own like
No, I don't. I don't
y'all
think it's
own
that.
arguments, man.
I think
Stuff.
I think
Come
it's
on,
that
y'all.
YouTube is not you. That's why I don't really be on here no more. YouTube. So what I learned, because I only be getting like one view a video. So what I learned, I went back and it told me that I have to make all of the same videos, like the same format, for them to put me in the algorithm. Because when I'm making different videos, it don't know where to put me at. So I'm sitting up there like, this YouTube. One day I might want to cook. One day I want to make jewelry. One day I might want to talk about this. But that's why I'm not getting in the algorithm. Now, when you do them same things every day, and I ain't gonna lie, I keep telling myself I'm gonna do it. Do the review videos. I can't bring myself to do it. But if I can start doing them review videos consistently, then YouTube will start showing my stuff. But until I have that format, I'm only getting one view on a video.
But
And
see, that's just messed up. You know what I mean? Because
And
my
TikTok
thing is,
not like that.
yeah,
TikTok, you put your
TikTok like
video
that,
out, TikTok gonna
right?
show it.
Right. But see, I thought that, but see, according to the guidelines, they want original content, authentic content. So authentic content is like you described. Okay, so one day I might want to cook, right? And then one day I might want to go in my garden. Or one day I might want to go show y'all my car. You know what I mean? Or one day I want to show y'all me fixing on something. Why is it that it's got to be like a certain way? I thought it was all about YouTube,
Right.
right? As a person, like you too. Why like that is some of the other reason why like I hadn't been around a lot is because they are it seems like they're conflicted, like really conflicted as to what that like like what that they're trying to promote and put out, and that's why you got, folks that just keep making the same content over and over and over again because they know that that's just how it is right now. So y'all just change with the wind. But hey, look, man, I'm not I got a lot going on, so I ain't finna do it. I ain't finna just change with the wind. I'm gonna stay consistent as to what I've been doing. If it's worth me talking about, if I can find some data, some information on it, I'll put it up here. But I'm not finna just get on here and just run my damn mouth, man.
And these
I got
apps,
more to do. I got a
these
hell of a lot more to do out here, man, than to be out here on a platform, on a channel, running
and,
my mouth for no reason.
These apps want you on here all the time, even with the TikTok. I'm like, I mean, we grew up where we didn't have phones, and then when we had phones, they just had a little screen on it, and they just kept advancing. And these people have grown up where they can be on a phone all day, every day, and this algorithm ain't like it used to be. Because when Instagram was just showing pictures, I used to be popping on Instagram, but now after the pandemic, Instagram wants you to produce a whole show. That's kind of like how YouTube wants you. YouTube wants you to produce a whole show for them to show your stuff. TikTok is the TikTok is very racist now that it got by Donald Trump friend, but you do get your stuff shown more. Now, we ain't really been on TikTok. So the people that been on TikTok, even though I think it's better than YouTube, people that been on there will tell you, no, it used to be better than this. Like, it used to be better than this. Now you get to like 300 views, and after 300 views, they want you to pay for more views. But they used to be better than that. But I still feel like it's better than YouTube. I'm getting 1 view, and I could go over to TikTok and get 300. Like, YouTube is like pissing everybody off. I be on the YouTube channel, and the people be in the comments telling them what they don't like about YouTube, and it's like, white people don't know how to leave well alone. And I've learned that from watching Donald Trump. I've learned that from like looking into history. I learned that from even like being in America. White people don't know they don't know when to just stop and let something alone, and now they're making everybody mad. I guess people kept talking about the age restriction. That's another thing. If I mark my video for people above 18, they're not going to share my video as much. Why? I'm not making videos for kids. So a lot of people on YouTube make videos for kids because those kid videos, they get they get millions of views. But that's done on purpose too by the Epstein class. I ain't gonna talk about that. But it's done on purpose that children videos get some of the most views on YouTube on purpose. And I think there's something funny about that.
Yeah, hey, look, that's her channel right there. For anybody that might want to see what she got talking about, just put at let me show that. Yeah. They don't want me to chat. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of show support, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like,
they don't want me to chat, y'all.
We gotta support each other. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we gotta support each other, although we may not always see the same. My show, look, like, generally what I do, like, look, you don't have to agree with me at all. Like, I just want to hear it. You just give me your argument, put it all out there, say what you got to say, and that's it. Like, I'm not going to argue with you and fight you about it. I just want people to have their opinions put out there, because I remember when I didn't have a damn channel like that, and I just wanted it to be, hey, look, man, like, I just want to say something, man. I just want to have my opinion put out there. And it was hard to find somebody, that I can get up and actually talk on, man. So for me, when I started my channel, I was like, look, man, when anybody want to come up, they could say as long as they being respectful and they not saying nothing that's going to violate the guidelines or have a problem, I'm good to go. I ain't going to try to convince you. I may ask you a few questions, but that's it. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and try to argue you down or get mad at you. It ain't that deep, man. Like, I just want to have a conversation and have people's views put out there, and things like that. It doesn't have to be confrontational. You know what I mean? So I know, one of the good things about us is that we can do that. We're able to have a difference of opinion, even if it get down to it, go at it. But at the end of the day, it's all good. It's all love at the end of the day. That's what people don't realize, right? Is that we can argue, bicker, fuss, and fight, but at the end of the day, it's all love, right? And see, a lot of people, they want to have some fun with it, so we can give them some fun. But my thing is, like, for me, generally, my channel has always been this way, is that I'll have a presentation, I'll talk about the facts, the data, and all of that. Maybe make some insinuations here or there, but then I open it up to anybody to have an opinion, and I ain't gonna judge nobody for their opinion, because I know people come from different places. See, I understand that. I see why somebody may feel the way that they feel. If they went through something bad on their side, yeah, I get it, brother. I understand. Or I get it, sister. Okay, okay, all right, cool. But I ain't gonna sit up here and argue you down and try to get you to change your mind. No, see, I ain't never been like that. People that been here know how I roll. Like I always roll that way. Folks are definitely able to get their stuff off, however that they want to talk, how long they want to talk. So speak your speech. It's about freedom of speech, man. That's what I'm about. So, but yeah, look, man, it was a great convo.
It was, and I
I
just want to ask you
enjoyed
one
it,
more
man.
question before I go.
Yeah,
Do you think that if more people, Black people, knew about the land, that they would give other Black people more grace? I give Black people a lot
I
of
think
grace when
so.
I
I
know
think
about the land.
so. That's why I'm doing it, because I think it's important for us to get awareness and understanding as to what has been like put in front of us. This is another thing that has been put there in front of us, and that is a challenge, and can explain why some of us act, behave, or have done some of the things that we've done. And there's been no research, no data, nobody's talked about it. So I think it's important that that word gets out like that, because it's supported. It's actually supported by some It's supported by some information,
You're right.
right? Some data. I looked into it.
I'm glad you did.
I'm not gonna like pick and choose. Like, look, if there's data there, I'm gonna look into it, talk about it, and say, hey, look, there's something here, y'all. It's something here, and yeah, like I really do think that and that's why I talked about this. I think it was a great thing, the topic that we talked about, and I decided that, hey, look, man, like this is a great topic. There's a lot of information. I can bring it out, and maybe it will have some exposure, and we'll see how it goes. But like I just do the best that I can on this platform. I'm no Mr. Beast or nothing like that. Definitely not that. But I just do what I can. You know what I mean? So like I'm doing what I can. And this is my thing is I've always been like this. That's the thing that people need to understand. I've been on it for the longest. I've been doing this. This is what I do. So we're gonna definitely be back with something else, another great topic, next week, more likely, like a great topic to talk about, some more information, some more data, things like that. And we'll have a discussion just like we had tonight. So yeah, Femi, thank you. You had a great, conversation, and it led me to come up with this, and I did some digging, and I came up with it, and I'm glad you came up and we talked. So I appreciate you. Definitely.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you too. You have a good evening.
Okay, all right. Likewise, sister.
All
Likewise.
right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Well, everybody, that was Miss Femi. I've been talking with her for some time, and we've had some great conversations, and definitely moving forward and everything. And just like I explained, I've done this for quite some time. And if anybody wants to come up real quick, but other than that, I'm going to get ready to go ahead and end it. Like I said, I enjoy coming back here. Look, a lot of the new guidelines and things of that nature has made it a bit difficult to be able to do what I really like doing. I really like being here. Friday nights, that was my night, right? To be here consistently and talking and spreading knowledge and information and giving a place for people to speak. And yes, Miss Pat, hey, I really wish you could have came up. It was a good time. I know you say you were doing laundry and stuff. I really enjoyed your channel, and I'm going to keep watching and seeing what's going on. I hope to be back, with something, here, worth talking about that's going on in these spaces other than the same old stuff that's been going on out here. There's not been a whole lot that I found to be worth really me really talking about, you know, other than it being gossip, things of that nature. But yeah, I've been around, you know, like I'm still here. And thank you so much, sister. And maybe next time we'll definitely get together and talk, you know, have a conversation on a topic. Thank you so much, Miss Pat, for coming up. I appreciate you so much. You'll never know it. All right, sister. Everybody, peace. Till next time. Till next time.